Well, you see, it's quite practical. There are certain people who are more influenced by their environment than by their own inner direction. And then there are others who are shaped more by internal forces, what we might call the subjective factor. Now, this subjective factor was once misunderstood. Freud, for example, interpreted it as a kind of pathological self-absorption, something like autoerotism. But that's a mistake. The psyche is not simply a blank slate. It has two major influences: the environment and the inner psychic structure we're born with. From birth, we are not empty. We're a unique blend of genes, traits, and energies. Even in childhood, these inner qualities shape who we are. When viewed from the outside, this inner world may seem abstract. But when viewed from within, it's vivid, just as we see the physical world with our eyes. Within ourselves, we see moving inner images, what many call fantasies. But fantasies are not meaningless. In fact, they are very real. A man's fantasy can lead to another man's death. That's how real it is. Fantasy carries its own energy, a form of psychic reality, even if we can't measure it with tools. Introverted intuitive types, for instance, often perceive these inner realities intensely, but when they try to explain them, they're usually misunderstood. So they stay quiet, keeping their insights to themselves. And that's both a strength and a sorrow. There are people who live as if they were born with their eyes turned inward. They sense what others miss. They move through life with one foot in the visible world and the other in the invisible world of meaning. Carl Jung called them intuitive introverts, and he believed that among all personality types, they carry a unique and quiet suffering. The pain of the intuitive introvert isn't loud or physical, it's existential. They're not alone because no one is around. They're alone because so few understand them. Jung saw them as people who are magnetically drawn inward, away from outer distractions, into the depths of the unconscious. They are natural visionaries, but in a world that prizes logic, productivity, and appearances, their gift becomes a burden. Daily life wears them down. They enter a room and feel subtle tensions others don't notice. A simple conversation exhausts them, not because they dislike people, but because the topics often feel hollow. They go to great lengths to avoid meaningless talk. Small talk to them isn't just annoying, it's spiritually draining. They are overwhelmed by social media, not from comparison, but from emotional and sensory overload. They can spiral for hours over a single offhand remark, not because they're weak, but because they read energy, tone, and subtext in every word. Take an ordinary meeting. The manager says, "I just expected a bit more initiative on that project." To others, it's a passing comment. To the intuitive introvert, it's a thunderstorm. All day they replay it. What did that mean? Was I criticized? Did I fail? Did I misread the expectations? By nightfall, they're questioning more than the comment. They're questioning their role, their value, their purpose. Because for intuitive introverts, words are layered. They don't just hear, they feel, interpret, absorb. And explaining this is almost impossible. That's the tragedy. Their insight is deep, but so is their isolation. What others call overthinking is often their normal mental state. They've been doing it since childhood. You can't just turn it off. This is the paradox of the intuitive introvert. The mind is constantly in motion, always processing, always translating life into symbols, metaphors, emotions. They're tuned to a frequency few even know exists. This struggle usually begins early. As kids, they don't quite fit. While others chase fun, they ask, why do people lie? Where do we go when we die? What's the point of life? Their inner world is alive and vast, but the outer world rarely meets them there. So they retreat into books, dreams, imagination. By adulthood, they've learned to hide their depth. It's how they survive in a world that often feels too shallow. People don't realize that their suffering isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's not screaming, it's silence. It's the subtle erosion of self, the ache of being seen but not truly known. They crave realness, depth, connection, but are met with performance, routine, superficial chatter. They sense when things are off, when a relationship is fake, when a job is meaningless. But articulating it, that's hard. People call them intense, sensitive, dramatic, so they stop sharing. Not because they don't have words, but because their truth often lands wrong. Picture this. At a family dinner, someone casually asks, "How have you been?" Instead of "I'm good," they say, "Lately I've been feeling a strange emptiness." Like I'm drifting through life without meaning. The room freezes. Someone awkwardly changes the subject. Another jokes, maybe you need a vacation. To the intuitive introvert, this was honesty, a moment of vulnerability. To others, it was too much. That's the wound. They open up and realize the world isn't ready for what's inside them. So they go silent again, not because they're shy, but because silence is safer. And in that silence, they suffer unseen. Jung understood this. He believed intuitive introverts live in close contact with the unconscious. They don't just think, they feel symbols, archetypes, energies. He called them mediators between the conscious and unconscious realms. Because of this, they're often overwhelmed by inner visions they can't explain. And if they suppress this part of themselves, it leads to depression, anxiety, a loss of meaning. But Jung also believed this sensitivity is their greatest power. If they stop resisting their nature and start working with it, it becomes their gift. So what heals the intuitive introvert? Solitude with intention. Not isolation, but sacred space to create. Expression through symbols. Art, music, writing, turning emotion into form. Connection with nature. Rivers, trees, stars. The stillness that mirrors their soul. Meaningful dialogue. Conversations that go deep, real, raw, soul level. Dream work and reflection. A regular ritual of inner exploration. Giving insight to others. Teaching, coaching, guiding when it's real and from the heart. Even volunteering, when it aligns with their values, can fill the inner well more than any material success. Jung believed these individuals thrive when they embrace their calling as bridges, material and mystical. So if you are an intuitive introvert, remember this. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. You are not lost in your head. You are vividly alive in a world that often forgets what aliveness feels like. Your sensitivity is a compass. Your visions are not noise, they are messages. Your solitude is not emptiness, it's a sacred temple. As Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens. So look within, honor the depth. And one day you will suffer less, not because the world changes, but because you'll finally feel at home inside yourself.